hello to you. Thank you so much for joining us on this Thursday. Always good to see you. I'm Veronica Dela Cruz. Here are the top stories that we're tracking for you right now.
How are you feeling now, sir? How are you feeling now?
I'm fine.
Have you seen an episode like that?
I never have, no.
The reason you get it checked out early is because you want to try and prevent it from happening again.
We need full transparency about the health of our politicians.
More than half of the entire country going to be in these heat advisories, watches, and warnings.
Oh my God, this is hell on earth, I guess. You know, it's just that hot.
This is unreal. Day, night, never seen anything like it. I don't know how anybody gets anything done in this heat.
The Federal Reserve once again raised interest rates 0.25%.
My husband I work, and all the money is for pay rent and food.
I would say it is certainly possible that we would raise funds again at the September meeting if the data warranted.
Hey there, welcome to Scripps News Live. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell's health becoming a concern on Capitol Hill. Earlier today, McConnell took to the floor in the Senate and spoke without incident, which becomes newsworthy considering what happened yesterday during a briefing with reporters. Take a look.
After finishing the NDA this week, has been good bipartisan cooperation and a string of
colleagues escorted the 81-year-old Kentucky senator away, but he did come back a few minutes later, and then he told reporters that he was fine. National political correspondent Kevin Sirley joining me now live in studio here in Atlanta. So, Kevin, is this going to go away like McConnell might want? I mean, what is happening here exactly?
Age is at the forefront of the next year and a half here in American politics. And what's interesting about Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell is that he is a very strategic messenger, and he's always on message when he is talking. And I'm going to play for you now, just moments after he was escorted off from that press conference after the 19-second pause. Take a listen to what he said. Here he is.
Well, the president called to check on me. I told him I got sandbagged.
Oh, nice. How are you feeling now, sir? How are you feeling now?
I'm fine.
Have you seen a doctor? Are you going to see a doctor?
Any idea what happened?
Huh?
Any idea what happened?
I'm fine.
So right there, he says that he was sandbagged. He was referencing President Biden's fall during that recent address and invoking age into President Biden, which is something Republicans really want to talk about. If you pull up a chart of the average age that Americans think the United States president should be, 49%, nearly half the country, thinks that the U.S. president should be in their 50s, and just 3% think that a U.S. president should be in her or his 70s or older. And so all of this comes as age has really been pushed to the forefront. And then let's pull up a breakdown of the average age of the members of Congress, because this is disproportionate to the breakdown of the demographics here in the U.S. There are 264 baby boomers who are in elected office in Congress. And then get this, 30 members of the silent generation. If you don't know what the silent generation is, that's if you were born between 1925, which was shortly after the first pandemic in the country, or the most recent one prior to COVID-19 rather, and 1945. So right there, Veronica, there is this conversation that has been happening, whether it relates to former Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi, Senator Dianne Feinstein, President Biden, and now Leader McConnell, about age and politics.
And you had just mentioned Senator Dianne Feinstein, and we all remember what happened there. There were plenty of calls for her to resign. Are we hearing that with McConnell as well?
No, and I think it's a difference, and it's a great question because it's a difference in the breakdowns of the power structures of the two respective parties. Because as it relates to McConnell, he was announced that he was running against around the same time that Speaker Pelosi had decided to step down. He said he was doubling down, not stepping down, and he's up for re-election in 2026. So he's got some time, and he hasn't said whether or not he's running again.
I wonder what's happening right now with the Republican leadership, though, and I wonder what's going to happen with the Republican Party. If they're talking about this,
can I quickly
and who would
jump?
Replace him?
It was fascinating, and this is where body language matters, right? Guess when he had that pause, it was Senator Thune who stepped up to go to the mic, and there's a lot of chatter in Washington based on my reporting where he's next in line behind McConnell.
Huh. All right, Kevin Sirley, nice to have you in studio.
Great to be with you, my friend.
Great to see you. Yeah, enjoy Atlanta.
I will. Thank you.
All right, other news at this hour, it's going to be a struggle to keep your cool across much of the country today, and that's because millions of people across the U.S. right now are under some sort of weather alert for those blistering hot temperatures. Meteorologist Scott Withers is joining me now in studio to break down the extreme weather. Scotty, wow, I'm so lucky. 2 for 2. I've got
2 for 2 today.
Great people in studio today.
Yeah, you know why? It's so hot outside, but no one wants to be outside. It's oppressive outside. This heat is spreading across a large part of the country, including the heavily populated East Coast right there along the I-95. New York City, an excessive heat warning in effect that runs through Friday night. All 5 boroughs will see temperatures at or above 100 degrees, and the feels like temperature 105. This mini heat wave will bake the Big Apple through Saturday night. Now, get this, more than half Americans right there are under some extreme heat advisories, watches, and warnings. 184 million people. That is not the mega million jackpot. That is the number of people under the threat of this potentially dangerous heat. And a lot of our major cities are included in this. New York, Hartford, Boston, Philly, D.C., and then even in the Midwest, Kansas City, Dallas, Fort Worth, and Minneapolis, St. Paul. The heat is so bad there, the cement on the expressways and the roadways, it's buckling. It's going to be close to the triple digits in the Twin Cities today with a feels like temperature of 105. The Minnesota Transportation Department warning drivers, hey, be careful. More roads out there could buckle. And in Michigan, it is drying out and cleaning up after powerful storms hammered the Motor City. Many roads quickly flooding. Winds hitting 70 miles per hour. They knocked out power to about 170,000 customers in Detroit and the Toledo, Ohio area. Right on the national radar, you can see that's what's left of those storms that moved through Michigan. Now they're going through the upstate New York and up into New England. They are still waterlogged, and that's going to cause some problems later today, specifically up here in Vermont and in New Hampshire. It's where we see our severe weather alerts, flash flooding watches. You can see them right up there and all across the country. Well, the rest of it is basically the heat. The extreme heat warnings, we got those in red. You can see New York City, New York, out here, most of Illinois into Iowa, then the Kansas-Nebraska border. Don't forget Minneapolis, St. Paul, way up there, and Phoenix. Can't talk about the heat without Phoenix. It's going to be day 28 out there with temperatures above 110 degrees. That orange and the green, the yellow and the green, that's where we're going to have some thunderstorms and maybe some hail later today, but they're not as bad as the orange. That is the rest of the country. And Veronica, this heat is really going to intensify tomorrow along the East Coast. The good news is the Midwest is going to get a little reprieve. Out here in Phoenix, no, sorry about that. It's going to stay hot through Sunday. And Veronica, it's going to cool down finally to 108 degrees.
You know, yesterday when we were talking about those temperatures, the water temperatures in Florida being above 100 degrees.
Hot tub weather. That is hot tub water right there. 100, 102 is prime where you get in the hot tub. So those temperatures up there, and normally those temperatures in the water down there should be in the upper 80s, and we're seeing in the upper 90s close to 100 or above.
And it really is affecting, you know, the wildlife. And
absolutely. And the onshore, that all that water, all that heat comes onshore and warms up the air.
Yeah. All right, Scotty, stay cool out there.
Yep. Thank you.
So President Biden, in the meantime, rolling out a plan to help millions of Americans deal with this extreme heat. He's been instructing the Labor Department to increase inspections of potentially dangerous work sites like farms and construction sites, and will strengthen enforcement of heat safety violations. More than 150 million people will go, or dollars rather, will go toward making drinking water more accessible, and then $7 million will be used to improve weather prediction technologies to prepare for severe weather like heat waves. We were just talking about the wildlife, which is adapting now as the climate change fueled heat waves grip the planet. Tanner Saul with Scripps News Montana shows us how species from birds to elephants have been changing to respond to this heat.
It's another toasty one out there, triple-digit temperatures yet again.
Record-breaking heat impacts much of the nation.
It's hot outside. You know it, I know it, and so does wildlife. As the world heats up under the relentless pressure of climate change, the survival of countless species hangs in the balance. But nature never ceases to amaze us with its remarkable ability to adapt to the sweltering changes. One of their secret weapons lies in their appendages, such as beaks and ears, which play a crucial role in regulating their body temperature by dissipating heat. And to keep staying cool, wildlife are starting to shapeshift. A publication in Trends in Ecology and Evolution has revealed that animals are responding to the higher temperatures by increasing the size of their ears, legs, beak, and other appendages. The bigger the size means more surface area. As the surface area increases, the amount of heat loss to the surroundings also increases. Think about it like this. On super hot days, it feels more comfortable to spread out in front of a fan, and on colder days, curling up into a ball helps retain warmth. As Darwin famously discovered, beak size is influenced by seed size. But temperature has a stronger effect on survival. Birds with smaller beaks are less able to regulate their body temperature, and therefore smaller beaks just don't cut it during warm years. 58% of all bird species follow this pattern of beak size to temperature. Beyond the avian world, other creatures like bats are increasing their wing size, while mice and shrews are growing longer tails. Even the majestic elephants are not left untouched, as their ears are getting even bigger in response to climate change. These changes may not be immediately noticeable, as the current increases in appendage size are still relatively modest, less than 10%. However, researchers predict that prominent features like ears will continue to grow larger, leading us to imagine a world with Dumbo-sized ears that were once only found in fiction. But it's not all sunshine and rainbows. As with any adaptation, there are some trade-offs. While the notion of animals evolving to prevent overheating and death is quite amazing, there are negative consequences as well. Take, for instance, a hummingbird. As its beak grows larger and wider due to shape-shifting, it might struggle to extract nectar effectively from flowers, putting its survival at risk. Shape-shifting occurring in wildlife is a testament to their resilience, but it doesn't exactly mean they are going to be successful. Instead, it shows they are more so evolving to endure it. Whether the evolutionary response will ultimately aid their survival in the long run remains uncertain. Scripps News, Tanner Sell.
And you can find deeper dives on all of these stories and a whole lot more online. Feel free to check us out on Scripps News on X, formerly known as Twitter, also Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and Threads. Coming up next on Scripps News Live, we're going to explain why the Federal Reserve's interest rate hikes might hurt your pockets now, but will be offering a greater reward in the future. Also, details on what's driving up the cost of gas and when drivers can expect to see some relief. Also, we would like to hear from you. Give us a call on our Scripps News Bureau hotline toll free. That number is 1-833-4-SCRIPPS. Feel free to share your comments and your story ideas.
If you have this, and you get this, you could end up with this. Unexpected out-of-pocket costs, which for those on Medicare or soon to be, is a good reason to take charge of your health care. So consider this, an AARP Medicare Supplement Insurance Plan from United Healthcare. Why? Because Medicare alone doesn't pay for everything. And what it doesn't pay for, like deductibles and copays, could really add up, even thousands of dollars a year. Medicare supplement plans help by paying some of what Medicare doesn't, and making your out-of-pocket costs a lot more predictable. Call United Healthcare today and ask for your free decision guide. Learn more about plan options and rates to fit your needs. Now, if you like this, greater freedom, you'll love that Medicare supplement plans have no networks and no referrals needed. See any doctor, any specialist, anywhere in the U.S., as long as they accept Medicare patients. These types of plans also give you more flexibility when traveling in the U.S. Your plan goes with you, anywhere you go in the country. Even better, these are the only plans of their kind, endorsed by AARP. Call United Healthcare today for your free decision guide. So if you have this and want less out-of-pocket costs and more peace of mind, consider adding this, an AARP Medicare supplement plan. Take charge of your healthcare today. Just use this or this to call United Healthcare about an AARP Medicare supplement plan.
This is a paid advertisement for legal services. Attention! This is an important message for anyone who spent time at Camp Lejeune before 1988. The U.S. Senate recently passed a bill that will allow anyone who spent time at the base to seek justice for injuries and illness caused by toxic water. You may be entitled to significant compensation from the federal government. A special hotline has been established. Call now for a free case evaluation. Just call 800-806-2823 now. If you or a family member spent time at Camp Lejeune, you consumed toxic water known to cause cancer and other serious health issues, including birth defects, leukemia, Parkinson's disease, miscarriage, and even death. Millions of people may be affected and don't even know it. Call now to see if you or your loved ones qualify for significant compensation from the federal government. Don't wait. The time to file is limited. Don't miss the deadline. Just call 800-806-2823 now. That's 800-806-2823.
Well, we are now just 1% away from the Federal Reserve ending its fight against inflation. The Fed announcing another quarter-point interest rate hike yesterday to bring inflation down to 2%. National correspondent Eddie Guajardo explains what this latest rate hike might mean for your wallet.
Consumers may need to dig deeper into their pockets for some big buys.
When I started looking from a year ago, a lot of those prices have changed dramatically.
Gabriella Woody sealed the deal on her new SUV just hours before the latest interest rate hike announcement. She says even before the latest increase, she noticed car prices rising at least a couple $1,000s.
So within my budget, thank goodness, but I mean, I probably could have gotten a couple, like a sunroof or an automatic liftgate, but those weren't in my price range anymore.
A new vehicle averaged $48,000 last month, about 25% higher than pre-pandemic levels. Used cars will run you a stinging $30,000, 45% more compared to pre-pandemic prices.
Are you at all concerned about the increase in interest rates?
There's always a little bit of a concern, but, you know, just like anything else, we've gotten through it.
Dora Herman with Courtesy Chevrolet in Arizona says they'll navigate this interest hike like all the others by working with customers. She says as interest rates go up, so do monthly payments.
It ranges anywhere from $500 to $700, average for the last few years.
Good afternoon.
On Wednesday, the Federal Reserve raised interest rates by a quarter point, bringing it to a range of 5.25 to 5.5%, impacting auto loans, mortgages, and credit cards.
It's good news for the economy overall, but it's bad news for our individual wallets.
Over the last year, inflation has steadily declined. It peaked at a 9% annual rate in June of 2022. It's now at 3%. But that's still too high for the Fed, which is still raising interest rates and making it more expensive to borrow money in a bid to slow down inflation below 2%.
We're in an environment where the Federal Reserve wants to tamp down inflation further, and it's willing to accept essentially some detrimental impacts.
Those detrimental impacts include a jump in the cost of auto loans, mortgage rates hovering at 7%, and credit card rates at near or all-time highs. But Wallet Hub analyst Jill Gonzalez says rate hikes affect much more than the interest we pay, adding that they're necessary evils.
That is, something that the Fed is well aware of. That's kind of baked in here. They want people to start going down.
The hikes are part of the Fed's strategy to pull off a so-called soft landing, bringing inflation down to a 2% target without falling into recession. Addie Guajardo, Scripps News, Phoenix, Arizona.
Even things that aren't impacted by interest rates are getting more expensive. Take food, for example. In about 20 minutes from now, I'll be joined by Ted Rossman, a senior industry analyst at Bankrate, to break down why companies continue to raise the price on your grocery store bill despite raking in record profits. So that downward trend in gas prices that we've all been enjoying is now coming to a screeching halt, at least for now. According to AAA, the national average for a gallon of regular is $3.71. That's up 15 cents from just a month ago. Olivia Michael with Scripps News Nashville explains what is fueling this latest spike.
So what's driving the price of gas here in Tennessee to go up? The answer might be found in a different part of the country.
For some reason, the station's always like 20 cents cheaper than the one next to it. I don't know why, but I'm not going to question it.
When it comes to cheap gas, some drivers will go the extra mile.
It's the cheapest gas. Everywhere else is $3.39 or $3.59, and I don't know, it's just ridiculous.
But as temperatures climb across the country, prices at the pump are climbing too. Since Monday, the average price for a gallon of regular gas has gone up 20 cents in Nashville.
It's very hot in
the Gulf Coast where a lot of our refineries are.
Refineries that supply gasoline to states like Tennessee, with temperatures soaring above 100 degrees for days on end. Production has been cut down.
In the last week and last couple of days, we've seen some fairly significant increases in crude oil prices. And the reason that that's important is that the price that you see at the pump, crude oil prices account for a little over half of that price.
AAA spokesperson Megan Cooper says the combination of the two factors could keep prices climbing.
We've seen, a big jump the last 2 nights. It's likely that we could see similar increases in the short term over the next couple of days.
I know when you look at them and they keep going up, it just ain't a good feeling.
But it's a feeling that could stick around for the foreseeable future.
Olivia Michael there reporting for us from Nashville, Tennessee. Straight ahead on Scripps News Live, Ukraine's counteroffensive against Russia presses on, how the U.S. thinks the operation is going, plus a potential coup in Western Africa, why the president of Niger was reportedly taken into custody by military leaders. That's next.
I've been putting off getting life insurance, and I'm not getting any younger.
Have you been thinking about getting a life insurance plan but just keep putting it off? Was that a yes? Then this message is for you. I'm David Denowitz, and I know the importance of life insurance. And that's why I'm here to tell you it's not too late to get the coverage you need.
If you're between the ages of 45 and 85, you can get a policy with a benefit of up to $25,000 and rates available at $5 a week. The phone lines are now open. Just call 800-354-6059.
And your acceptance is guaranteed.
I have a pre-existing medical condition. Is my acceptance guaranteed?
Yes.
Can I get accepted without a medical exam?
Yes. If you're between 45 and 85, you can't be turned down for this guaranteed acceptance life insurance regardless of your health. Plus, there's no medical exam and no health questions, and rates start at just $5 a week. Remember, if you're between 45 and 85, you can't be turned down regardless of your health. Nothing's more important than family. So call now, pick up the phone, and get guaranteed acceptance life insurance today.
Just call 800-354-6059.
I'm 72 and on a fixed income. Is my acceptance guaranteed?
Yes. Your acceptance is guaranteed, and your rate can never go up for any reason. You can't be turned down regardless of your health. There's just one simple question. Are you between 45 and 85? If you answered yes, don't wait another minute. Call now.
The call is absolutely free, and there is no obligation to enroll. Just call 800-354-6059. That's 800-354-6059.
It's Christmas all July at Balsam Hill. It's never too early to save, so why wait? Get amazing deals now on our wide variety of exclusive designs. Find the perfect tree at up to 50% off at balsamhill.com.
When Lila was ready to sell her ring, she sent it to Worthy, where they took care of everything and auctioned it on her terms. Then, Worthy sent Lila her money. You're worthy of more. Get started at worthy.com.
There's a better way to begin your mornings.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Morning Rush. Thanks so much for being with us.
Context and conversation.
This next story, we were talking about this earlier today.
Get the stories that will shape each day.
Here with us now is meteorologist Scott Withers. We got just wave after wave after wave.
So you can get on with yours.
Make sure you stay with us as we monitor this developing story.
Morning Rush, weekday mornings starting at 7/6 Central, only on Scripps News.
Ukraine launched its counteroffensive a month ago, and it's now picking up momentum. According to the New York Times, Pentagon sources confirm Russian reports of stepped-up attacks in southern Ukraine. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin says he remains optimistic that U.S. support is helping.
Deliberate. They've been serving manpower and equipment, and so they still have a number of options available to them. and we can expect that they'll continue to press with.
As Ukraine is stepping up its ground attack, Russia is countering with an aerial barrage. More than 36 cruise missiles hit targets across Ukraine yesterday. The U.S. and its allies are trying to find other ways in the meantime to export grain out of Ukraine. Ukraine and Russia are among the world's biggest grain exporters. Russia recently pulled out of a deal to allow safe travel for grain ships leaving Ukraine. And that food is crucial to the world food supply, especially for developing nations. U.S. officials say they are working to find ways to move the grain overland, at least for now.
We are working with our EU partners. We're working with Ukraine and other European partners to see if there's other ways to get grain to market overland. But that's not as efficient. It's not effective. You can't move as much or as fast.
Grain prices have gone up since Russia pulled out of the grain deal. The United Nations is overseeing a coordinated effort to keep grain moving. Now, if the grain from Ukraine slows down too much, it could trigger a potential humanitarian food crisis. The president of Niger vowing to protect democracy and fight back against a military coup that ousted him from office. The soldiers went on national television last night to announce they had removed him from office. He's being held at the presidential palace. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has called for his release.
Earlier this morning, and made clear that the United States resolutely supports him as the democratically elected president of Niger. We call for his immediate release. We condemn any effort to seize power by force.
Niger correspondent Tessa Makonde has the details for us.
The situation is quite a tense one, in Niger Republic, and countries or heads of governments in the West African nations, neighboring West African nations, such as Nigeria, Benin Republic, are all working together. They've pledged to ensure that democracy is restored in Niger Republic. So a lot of efforts ongoing at the moment, but I can say that yes, there's a lot of tension in Niger Republic because it's a country that is battling insurgency just like Nigeria. And so with the coup happening, a lot of the citizens are just afraid, unaware of what might happen next. But yes, there are assurances that all is under control.
Tessa Makonde reporting there for us from Nigeria. For the audience leaving us right now, your local programming is up next. Remember, you can always check us out on ScripsNews.com. Now, if you are staying with us, we have much more news headed your way right now on Scripps News Live, including some companies admitting that they are raising the prices on food and items that we use every day. So we are almost forced to pay up. We're going to examine how this complicates the Federal Reserve's efforts to curb inflation. And some parents struggling to buy diapers right now. We're going to show you where you can turn for help. I'm Veronica Dela Cruz, and you are watching Scripps News Live.
Municipal bonds don't usually get the media coverage the stock market does. In fact, most people don't find them all that exciting. But if you're looking for the potential for consistent income that's federally tax-free, now is an excellent time to consider municipal bonds from Henyon & Walsh. If you have at least $10,000 to invest, call and talk with one of our bond specialists at 1-800-465-8465. We'll send you our exclusive bond guide, free, with details about how bonds can be an important part of your portfolio. Henyon & Walsh has specialized in fixed income and growth solutions for 30 years and offers high-quality municipal bonds from across the country. They provide the potential for regular income, are federally tax-free, and have historically low risk. Call today to request your free bond guide. 1-800-465-8465. That's 1-800-465-8465.
Do you spend hours maintaining your gutters? Save that time with LeafGuard's maintenance-free system. Call 1-833-2-GUTTERS. Mesh filters sit on top of your gutters, building up debris and eventually clogging. Then they need to be cleaned too. Honestly, your home should have been built with LeafGuard gutters. Leaf Guard's wraparound hood deflects debris and keeps water away from your home. The one-piece seamless system is strong, 20% thicker than average and built to last. Plus, Leaf Guard is guaranteed to never clog for as long as you own your home. Right now, get a complete Leaf Guard system for only $99 down, $99 a month, and $99 installation. You'll also receive a $100 Visa gift card with a free gutter inspection and in-home estimate. Damage from clogged gutters can cost you thousands. Never worry about clogged gutters again. Don't wait, you've still got time. Call 1-833-2-GUTTERS today. That's 1-833-2-GUTTERS.
Hey there, welcome to Scripps News Live. I'm Veronica Dela Cruz. Great to see you on this Thursday. Let's get you caught up right now in the day's top stories. There are concerns inside and outside of the nation's capital about Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell's health. The 81-year-old is insisting that he is fine after he stopped talking and stared vacantly for 20 seconds during his weekly news conference yesterday. McConnell was then escorted away and later returned to answer questions from reporters. McConnell missed 6 weeks earlier this year after suffering a concussion and fracturing a rib in a fall. Ukraine unleashing a major push to drive Russian troops from Zaporizhzhia. That's where Europe's largest nuclear plant is located. Western and Ukrainian officials and analysts say this is part of Ukraine's counteroffensive. Russia invaded Ukraine about 17 months ago now. So despite recent interest rate hikes, the U.S. economy grew 2.4% between April and June. And that's above the 1.5% forecasted, and it is up from the 2% growth rate recorded for January through March. The Fed raised a key interest rate a quarter point yesterday in its effort to slow growth.
It is certainly possible that we would raise funds again at the September meeting if the data warranted. And I would also say it's possible that we would choose to hold steady at that meeting.
Fed Chair Jerome Powell there hinting at another interest rate increase later this year, right after announcing its 11th increase since March of 2022. Though interest rate hikes could deter some people from spending on items, everyone still needs to buy food and basic necessities, and it's getting expensive. According to the Consumer Price Index, food prices increased 5.7% in the past year. Companies like Coca-Cola, Pepsi, and Unilever have not only reported higher prices, but they're reporting higher profits as well. Let's go ahead and break down the numbers right here. Coca-Cola reported its profits rose 33% last quarter from the same time last year. And then Unilever, who owns companies like Ben & Jerry's and Dove, reported a 20% profit growth in the first half of this year compared to last year. And then Pepsi reported its second quarter profits doubled from just a year earlier. Ted Rossman, a senior industry analyst at Bankrate, joins us now live. Ted, good to see you. So lots of questions here. We can obviously cut back on lots of things, but it's very difficult to cut back on items like food or soap, if you will. So when you hear these numbers, when you hear about these profits, what does it all mean? And how does it impact the Fed's efforts to curb inflation?
I actually think we're starting to turn a corner. In the latest CPI numbers, grocery inflation, or what they call food at home, was up 4.7% year over year. That's actually the lowest since September of 2021. So I think we're past the peak there. I mean, still cold comfort for people whose grocery bills are going up, but we do expect further declines in the months to come. Interestingly, food away from home, basically restaurant sales, inflation there is still at 7.7%. according to the CPI. And I think that really tracks back to pent-up demand and people prioritizing experiences.
So during the pandemic, it was obvious that a lot of companies were passing on prices, to consumers. For example, I would buy a latte, and back in the day it was $1.95. Today it's $4.95. Just because the Fed is dealing with interest rates in the way that they are doesn't necessarily mean that that coffee shop is going to say, okay, well, we're going to go ahead and drop rates again back to $1.95. So companies are admitting to raising prices, yet we keep paying them, and then the Fed keeps raising interest rates. Are we just trapped in an endless cycle?
This is an important point because, even though inflation's coming down, you're right, that doesn't mean we're going to roll the clock back to 2019 prices. Lower inflation just means that prices will still be growing, they'll just be growing at a slower rate. I think that's a really important point here, that there's a cumulative effect to all this. The fact that we've had this inflation the past couple of years, the fact that interest rates are up. I mean, look at something like credit cards. The average credit card rate right now is about 20.5%. Most people are facing credit card rates that are 5.25 percentage points higher than they were at the beginning of last year. There's a cumulative effect to that toll.
And we are still seeing layoffs. People are still talking about a potential recession. What are your thoughts right now? Because, I mean, is this really sustainable, this cycle that we're in right now, despite this strong labor market, stable consumer spending? I mean, can the average American continue to afford these types of prices, especially if they do continue to rise?
We continue to be surprised at the resilience of consumer spending. We got a really positive GDP number today, 2.4% in the second quarter versus a 2% expectation. I think everybody continues to be amazed that this recession timetable keeps getting pushed back, and maybe it won't happen at all. I think the odds of a so-called soft landing, Fed bringing inflation down without causing a recession, I think those odds are rising. And I think we can look at things like the strong job market, the fact that a lot of people saved more during the pandemic, so there is still some of that dry powder. Now, of course, that's at this point more at upper income levels. But even if we look at middle income and lower income households, the debt to income ratio is actually looking pretty favorably, historically speaking. So I think the resilience of the consumer is a really important topic here. Hopefully it continues. I think that the tight labor market is definitely keeping things afloat.
But even if the Fed is claiming to bring inflation down, people are still seeing those high prices. People say this to me all the time. I can't afford my rent. I can't afford to buy groceries. Why are prices so high?
Even though, I mean, no doubt people are strained by inflation, but remarkably, people are still buying anyway. I mean, we're seeing a real surge right now in spending on experiences. And I think that's because of pandemic effects, all that pent up demand for travel and dining and concerts and sporting events. But even in the physical goods sector, those sales have tailed off a bit, but they're still holding their own. I mean, they certainly haven't fallen off a cliff. I thought it was interesting that National Retail Federation said this week that they saw a lot more people trading down during and after the Great Recession. So looking at things like dollar store sales, for example, for groceries and back to school, we're not seeing as much of that right now. So I think we do have some conflicting signals. We definitely have some economic challenges, but I think in the face of that, people seem to be feeling worse than the actual data. I think that consumer sentiment, and even that is ticked upward in recent months, but that seems more depressed than the actual economic data, which is actually pretty robust right now, despite these challenges.
Right, and we've been talking about the economy being resilient. Some do say that it's going to be tough to hit the Fed's 2% inflation goal. I want to get your thoughts on that, but I also want you to answer what you think is happening here. Is this corporate greed? Are corporations just trying to widen their profit margins, or is it really inflation, especially if the Fed is saying, look, we're at 3%, we want to hit that 2% goal? Is what we're seeing right now inflation, or is this corporate greed?
I think whether it's corporate greed or just capitalism probably depends a bit on your politics. I mean, I do think that this is part of our system. I mean, let's face it, companies are always out there to maximize profits. And a lot of this comes back to what the market will bear. And the market is bearing a lot of spending right now. It doesn't always feel good, but people are paying these prices. And I think that there are certainly some underlying factors. I mean, still some lingering supply chain disruptions. The cost of labor has gone way up. But even there, we don't see companies cutting back in large percentages. So I actually really think this is more of a capitalism, what the market will bear kind of story. And it's been remarkably strong, I would say.
All right, Ted Rossman from Bankrate, thank you so much for stopping by. Always appreciate your time.
No problem, thanks.
From time to time, we bring you stories about food insecurity, but there is also another issue, diaper insecurity. The National Diaper Bank found that nearly half of families with small children struggle to pay for diapers. Keely McCormick with Scripps News Tampa visited a diaper bank to take a closer look at this crisis.
The need for diapers is on the rise both across the nation and right here in the Bay Area. I'm Keely McCormick with how one local diaper bank is trying to keep up with demand.
We are always asking for more diapers because we did hit over 1 million, but the need in the community is great.
The Junior League of Tampa is working with its partners to provide free diapers for families who struggle to afford them.
Even the demographics of the families that are coming in are changing.
In the last year, they doubled the number of diapers they gave out, averaging about 70 to 100,000 diapers a month. That resource taking a major weight off some mothers' backs.
Constantly. I just keep having to use diapers. And then I'm doing it by myself.
This is Walisha Carter. She's a hardworking mother of 2 who struggled to afford diapers for her 1-year-old.
The price, the cost, it just goes up. Especially when you don't have enough money to keep buying diapers.
Carter tells me at one point she was limiting how many times she changed her son's diaper.
You know, this is maybe your second to last one. So you're kind of like, I want to hold on to this one at least until, I find some money to get some more diapers tomorrow. Having him sit in a diaper for maybe depending 4 or 5 hours, that it hurts.
Now Carter uses the diaper bank to get free diapers through Metropolitan Ministries, which is one of the Junior League's partners. Carter says it's her saving grace, and Morrison tells me that's their goal, to give mothers one less thing to worry about.
There's a lot of factors and health reasons, being able to change their diapers regularly. So it impacts all aspects of the family and the child's growth.
I'm Keely McCormick for Scripps News.
Coming up next, mental health advocates sounding the alarm on a growing issue.
Experience where I was only able to see my therapist and psychiatrist once per week.
We're going to explain how President Biden is stepping up to help ensure better care for millions of Americans. Plus details on his administration's new research program that offers hope for families battling cancer.
Attention all seniors. You can now get up to $50,000 for your funeral and other final expenses, including your credit card debt, with no medical exam, starting at less than $1 a day.
Oh, honey, your dad and I can't stop talking about this baby that's coming.
We've also been thinking a lot about our future, and no matter what, we want to make sure we aren't leaving you and your family with any of our debts.
Just last week, we read that the price of a funeral can be $8,000 or more.
Wow, Jeff and I definitely would not have the money to pay for that.
And that's just a funeral. But you don't have to worry. We called, and with one phone call, we were eligible for $50,000 for our funeral and final expenses.
Well, that's great, but don't you need to take a medical exam to qualify? You and Mom have some health issues.
No. There's no medical exam, and we were able to get coverage right over the phone.
And our rates can never be increased, our benefits can never be decreased, and our coverage can never be canceled.
I'm so glad you made that call.
Don't leave loved ones with your debt. Call 800-293-5789 now and see if you qualify for up to $50,000 for your funeral and other final expenses, starting at less than $1 a day. There's no medical exam, and you can be approved even if you have pre-existing health conditions. Your rates can never be increased, your benefits can never be decreased, and your coverage can never be canceled. There's no obligation. Call 800-293-5789 now. There's no paperwork, no hidden fees, and no waiting periods. And you can start coverage right over the phone, starting at less than $1 a day. Call 800-293-5789. That's 800-293-5789. 800-293-5789.
Hi, I'm Sophia, founder of Pair Eyewear.
The only glasses you can change, like you change your clothes. Each pair starts with a base frame, then choose from over hundreds of designs, like a top frame from your favorite holiday. Or you can even turn your glasses into sunglasses. Every pair starts at just $60, including prescription lenses. Glasses are an extension of your personality, and we're here to celebrate each and every version of you. Discover your next pair at paireyewear.com.
When Lila was ready to sell her ring, she sent it to Worthy, where they took care of everything and auctioned it on her terms. Then, Worthy sent Lila her money. You're worthy of more. Get started at worthy.com.
Digging deeper into the headlines.
We have some big stories to get to tonight.
Shedding light on groundbreaking investigations and ending your night with something new.
Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Christian Bryant.
Scripps News Tonight, live tonight, starting at 8/7 Central.
The Biden administration is launching a new program to help curb cancer deaths in the United States. The Precision Surgical Interventions Program is under the administration's Advanced Health Research Agency. It is the first cancer-focused initiative the White House revealed under the agency. The program will collect ideas from the public and private sectors to advance cancer treatment. Interested researchers can attend an event in Chicago in September in order to submit their ideas. The Biden administration is also answering calls for better mental health care. Lydia Vasquez of Scripps News Tampa spoke with a licensed counselor about what it all could mean and how the lack of resources is impacting people every day.
For me, it's a win.
Natasha Pierre was diagnosed with bipolar disorder more than 20 years ago. She tells me she often fell through the cracks between insurance companies and getting the mental health help she needs.
But I've experienced where I was only able to see my therapist and psychiatrist once per week. And if you are in crisis, if you're in need of that extra support, mental health providers shouldn't have their hands tied with how much care they're able to provide.
But Sandra Seeger, licensed mental health counselor, says her hands are tied. She says she was forced to stop accepting patients with insurance.
I stopped taking it because we would not get paid. I would submit a bill, and because I didn't do something specific on it, they wouldn't pay me. So I might be out $500 or $600 and I'd never get it back.
Tuesday, President Biden announced plans to push insurers to increase their mental health coverage and to treat mental health care like physical health care.
Our plans would require health insurance plans to identify the gaps in the mental health care that they provide.
Those gaps include measuring how many mental health providers are in their networks, how much they are paying these providers, how difficult it is for someone to join their network, and how often they require prior authorization and deny those requests.
If the insurance companies are getting better about paying and are paying more reasonable rates and getting better about paying on time, I think there's a lot of us who would reconsider taking on insurance again so people could use their benefits.
We reached out to Representative Kathy Castor. She's a member of the Subcommittee on Health, who tells me her office plans to work with agencies enforcing this. She also says she's introduced a bill to put more mental health counselors in schools.
Children are 6 times more likely to get the mental health care that they need in the school setting. That way you're not having to fight to find that psychologist in your neighborhood or work through your primary care doctor or pediatrician.
Meanwhile, Pierre tells me she was able to find a psychiatrist to work with, and she hopes these new rules will make mental health help more accessible for others.
I don't want to be the exception. My experience should be the rule. Me being able to have access to 3.5 months of a program that changed my life, I shouldn't be the exception.
In Tampa, Lydia Vasquez.
Straight ahead on Scripps News Live, an effort to get companies to dip into underused portions of the talent pool, military veterans. Also a dry run to help teens feel confident during real job interviews. That's next.
Hi friends, Richard Karn here. Now I'm known as the guy who can fix just about anything, but the technology in most appliances requires very special training to fix. My point is, even I know when I've met my match, and that's why my family has Choice Home Warranty. so we won't get stuck with high-priced repairs.
Choice Home Warranty covers over 25 major home systems and appliances. That's your AC, heating, plumbing, kitchen and laundry appliances, and so much more.
Imagine for less than a cup of coffee a day, Choice Home Warranty can help protect you from expensive major system and appliance breakdowns that your homeowner's insurance doesn't cover. But you have to call now before it's too late.
Every homeowner should have Choice Home Warranty. Your homeowner's insurance is not going to cover your appliances.
Washing machine, dryer, refrigerator, air condition. If I had any issues arise, they were able to take care of it immediately.
Now, homeowners insurance won't protect you when your home's major systems and appliances break down due to normal wear and tear. But Choice Home Warranty will. They can help cover repairs and replacements.
Choice Home Warranty is the best warranty we've ever used. It would save you so much money in the long run.
Hey, I'm not the only one raving about Choice Home Warranty. They were named a Best Home Warranty Company and Best Claim Service by U.S. News 360 Reviews.
Call Choice Home Warranty now and get access to a nationwide network of over 15,000 technicians and the latest appointment setting technology so you'll know when they're on their way.
If I have an issue with an appliance or something around the house, I just call up Choice Home Warranty and I don't have to worry about that.
So, do what this old DIYer did and call Choice Home Warranty now before something breaks down. Tell them I sent you and get your first month free.
Call Choice Home Warranty before it's too late and get protection for your heating, AC, plumbing, kitchen and laundry appliances, and more. Call for your free quote today. Call in the next 5 minutes and get your first month free. 800-360-4534. 800-360-4534.
It's Christmas all July at Balsam Hill. It's never too early to save, so why wait? Get amazing deals now on our wide variety of exclusive designs. Find the perfect tree at up to 50% off at balsamhill.com.
This is Wise. 40 currencies, 170 countries, one account to take on the world. Take on Rio. Take on Rome. Take on work. And take on play. Take on this, and this, and spend, send, receive. Here, there, everywhere. Download the Wise app today.
Breaking down the headlines.
We're going to take a deeper dive
with up-to-the-minute information, giving you the whole story.
Let's get you caught up on some of today's top stories.
The Debrief, live tonight, starting at 6/5 Central, only on Scripps News.
California Governor Gavin Newsom apparently trying to step in to help negotiate the Hollywood strikes. The Writers Guild has been on strike since May. Actors joined them on the picket lines earlier this month. Newsom's office says he's been in touch with reps on all sides, but so far, no one has shown interest in Newsom's involvement. Movie and TV productions bring in billions of dollars for the state, and Newsom is concerned that prolonged strikes could hurt the economy. When the writers previously went on strike back in 2007, the 100-day stoppage cost California nearly $2 billion. Employers looking for motivated people to hire are now turning to military veterans. Cameron Pullum of Scripps News Phoenix shows us how the Wounded Warriors Project is helping vets land jobs.
Every year, hundreds of thousands of veterans leave the military for civilian life, exiting a world of regiment and order for one of uncertainty.
I'm glad you're here.
Inside GCU Tuesday, veterans here are banding together for support, sharing their experiences, both good and bad. More importantly, how life outside the branches of service is going now. Employment, a major focus today.
So Warriors to Work, it's a simple, you bring your resume and then they'll help you walk through the resume or review process.
Army veteran Sven Olsen spent 27 years serving all over the world, but when it came time to find a job following his service, he struggled to translate his military skills into civilian terms for employers.
And here I am with over 20 years of leadership and incredible experience all over the world. And I was the one having a hard time finding employment.
His resume spoke military, and it's hard for a lot of civilian employers to understand, that vernacular.
Tony Smith with Wounded Warriors to Work says translating the skills our soldiers learn is key to landing a job. That's where he comes in.
Everything from resume writing, interview preparation, networking, connections to local companies within the area that the Warriors are in.
Of course I was a leader. I was a military officer at the U.S. Embassy, and it's like, okay, we need to quantify that as leadership. How many people did you, many people were on your team that you supervised? What was the budget? Those were things I would never have dreamed of putting on a resume.
A couple tweaks here and there. Master's degree in hand, Sven soon nabbed his dream job as a professor at Grand Canyon University. Army vet Dean Rogers says not only does Warriors to Work help military members find a job, but their families too.
When you get out of the military, you have spouses that also don't know where they belong, or you have to move back home after your military service.
Selfless service of so many, reminding us why Hire a Veteran Day is so important. In Phoenix, I'm Cameron Polum reporting.
And those job interviews might make most people nervous, but being told that simple phrase, "you got this," can give a much needed boost of confidence. Hannah McDonald with Scripps News Nashville shows how mock interviews have been helping teenagers get hired in one of the city's poorest zip codes.
I am. 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 I am.
Tell me if you were trying to sell me.
In front of business owners.
I've been pressure washing with my pops. So right now we're starting off small.
Aspiring business owners made their pitch.
I got my personal pressure washer. We're trying to start off right now.
These hopeful young men live in the 37208 zip code.
There's always ways that you could work around.
A community where some say it's easy to lose hope.
I grew up in poverty. I didn't have a father. I grew up in the trauma. I've been incarcerated. I've went through, gun violence. I've done all of that. It started as a kid. I was born into that, and a lot of them are born into this too as well.
Terrence Akins gathers this group together multiple times a week.
So we can do pressure
Tell
washing.
me why you like EL.
What would success look like for make the world look a little bit more colorful? Just take your time.
The mentors he added to the mix on this day know what it takes to earn someone's business.
When you come to someone and say, "Hey ma'am, how you doing? I would like to cut your grass, your yard. I would like to manicure your yard," right?
William Gant is a local manager.
This is something that's major for these boys. It's going to be a major thing to try to go in someone's job, go in someone's building to try to obtain that job. And the main thing I told him was to be sure, take those 5 deep breaths when you're outside that door. Get your composure, breathe, right? Because you're nervous. It's something new to them, right? Never had a job before, so you're going to try to do something you've never done before. I would be nervous.
For participating, each team got a brand new dress shirt, a black tie.
Take your tie, put it on your arm like that. Wrap once, wrap twice, wrap 3 times. Come up under the first loop and pull the second. It's going to form your knot. Then you just shape it.
And a crash course in putting it all together.
You put yours on. It's right. Your knot is right, but you got to take it off and turn it around. I feel compelled. I feel obligated, actually, to give back and provide more opportunities than were there for me.
The goal is the young men see.
There's free money out there to help further your business.
There are people invested in them.
We want to give them these skills right here today to set them up for success and not failure.
And I do want to present you the job.
In North Nashville.
Make sure you come on time.
I'm Hannah McDonald.
And finally this hour, here is your chance to own recordings once made to introduce aliens to life on Earth. It's a copy of a message on board NASA's 2 Voyager probes launched back in 1977. Take a look. These recordings belong to the late astronomer Carl Sagan. Now, one of them features Chuck Berry's Johnny Be Good and other music from all around the world. Now, the other contains sounds from humpback whales and greetings in 59 languages. These are expected to sell for about $600,000. Very cool. Thank you so much for watching Scripps News Live. I'm Veronica Dela Cruz. For the audience leaving us right now, your local programming is up next. Don't forget, you can always check us out on scripsnews.com. And if you are staying with us, we have much more news headed your way right here on Scripps News Live, including a new investigation from the Department of Justice. We'll be right back.
Welcome to the place where people go to learn about their Medicare options before they're on Medicare.
Come on in. You're turning 65 soon? Yeah. And you're retiring at 67?
That's the plan.
Well, you've come to the right place.
Now's the time to plan ahead. Learn about an AARP Medicare Supplement Insurance Plan from United Healthcare. and how a plan like this helps you take charge of your health care with lower out-of-pocket costs. Here's why. Medicare alone doesn't pay for everything. Your deductibles and copays could add up to hundreds, even thousands of dollars a year.
Everyone's a little surprised to learn that one.
Adding a Medicare supplement plan helps pay some of what Medicare doesn't. And that could mean fewer surprises and more predictable out-of-pocket costs. Call United Healthcare and ask for your free decision guide. Or talk with a licensed insurance agent or producer to learn more about plan benefits, options, and rates. Medicare supplement plans let you choose any doctor, any specialist, anywhere in the U.S. who accepts Medicare patients. You don't have to deal with any networks or referrals. This kind of plan also goes with you anywhere you travel in the country. If you're turning 65 soon or over 65 and planning to retire, find out more about the only Medicare supplement plans endorsed by AARP.
Thumbs up to that.
Remember, the time to prepare is before you go on Medicare.
Don't wait. Get started today.
Take charge of your health care. Call United Healthcare for your free decision guide and learn more about lowering your out-of-pocket Medicare costs and seeing any doctor who accepts Medicare patients.
Oh, and happy birthday or retirement in advance.
Hey there, great to see you today. Thank you so much for joining us on this Thursday afternoon. It's now 1 p.m. in the East and 10 a.m. out West. I'm Veronica Dela Cruz. Welcome to Scripps News Live. More blistering temperatures across the country today as the brutal heat wave lingers on. At this hour, more than 184 million Americans under heat alerts right now. That heat impacting cities from coast to coast in different ways. Health officials in Phoenix say heat is to blame for another 7 deaths, pushing its heat-related deaths to 25 so far. Yesterday, Phoenix hit its 27th consecutive day with temperatures at about 110 degrees. Now, while deaths have been confirmed to be heat-related, health officials in Phoenix say it's hard to come to firm conclusions. And then in Minnesota, the rising temperatures have been causing the cement on the expressway and the roads there to buckle. Take a look. It's expected to be close to the triple digits in the Twin Cities as well, with a feels-like temperature of 105. The Minnesota Transportation Department has been warning drivers out there to be careful because more roads could buckle. The extreme heat and other climate issues brought 2 federal agencies and the mayors of 2 major cities to the White House today. President Biden meeting with leaders of the Federal Emergency Management Agency and the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, along with the mayors of Phoenix and San Antonio, who attended virtually. Phoenix has seen at least 27 straight days of temperatures above 110. White House correspondent Haley Bull joining us now live. Haley, what is the weather like in Washington, D.C. right now for these meetings, and what exactly happened in these meetings?
It's not as hot as Phoenix, but you do feel some warm temperatures here in D.C. But this week, as extreme heat hit cities across the country, the White House is looking to tackle it. The president saying that climate change is a threat. The White House announcing several new actions on this front today. The president is asking the Department of Labor to issue a hazard alert. It will be the first time the Labor Department did such an alert, as the White House looks to better protect workers and communities from these very high temperatures. Now, what that means is the department is expected to increase enforcement for heat safety violations. That includes more inspections for high-risk industries. For example, when you think about the agriculture industry and the workers who are constantly working outside. Additionally, the administration announced more investments for better forecasting as well as water infrastructure. Listen to what the president had to say.
Announcing additional steps to help states and cities deal with the consequences of extreme heat. First, I've asked Acting Labor Secretary Julie Su to issue a heat hazard alert. It clarifies that workers have federal heat-related protections. We should be protecting workers from hazardous conditions, and we will. And those states where they do not, I'm going to be calling them out.
Now, as you mentioned, Veronica, the president made the announcements alongside administration leaders as well as the mayors of San Antonio and Phoenix, two cities really feeling the impact from the heat. Phoenix's mayor says one of the things they're looking for is the ability for the federal government to declare a heat disaster to help tap into more federal assistance. Meanwhile, some progressive lawmakers are looking for the White House to go a step further and declare a national climate emergency. When we look more broadly at how the public views this, Veronica, a recent Quinnipiac poll found a majority of Americans are concerned about climate change and believe it will have a significant negative effect on the world in their lifetime. Veronica?
All right, Haley Bull live for us at the White House. Haley, thank you so much. Overseas now to Greece, where a wildfire on the Greek island of Rhodes has been burning out of control now for 10 days. Satellite data shows carbon emissions from Greek wildfires this month doubled the previous record, and that data goes back 20 years. Firefighters are battling the flames from the air and on the ground. And this drone video shows how close the flames are burning right now to these villas on the island of Rhodes. The wildfire is blamed for 2 more deaths on the Greek mainland. One was a woman, the other a shepherd trying to save his flock. The Greek Fire Brigade says 74 firefighters have been injured or have suffered heat stroke while battling the flames. And Canadian officials are saying there are more than 1,000 active wildland fires there. In response, many U.S. firefighters have been sent to help. They're battling a language barrier and foreign territory in a race to contain the flames. National correspondent Thomas Hoppe takes a closer look at how U.S. crews have been aiding in their effort.
Yeah, you guys just falling behind Bravo.
Canada had a pretty extraordinary fire season here in not just Quebec, but in other provinces as well.
We're here in Val-d'Or, Quebec, Canada, which is just outside the fire zone, about 400 miles northwest of Montreal. We've been working with officials to see what these U.S. crews are up against. Obviously a 1.5 million acre fire, but also working with French-speaking Canadians with this language barrier, all working together to battle the fire.
You can hit me on simplex 12. It's that time where you got to really, like, tenacity's got to start showing in you, and you got to just really keep your head moving forward, because it's not the most exciting. It can be pretty slow, and we're getting coordinates. You know, we're flying it, finding coordinates in a helicopter. We're sending people out to these little spots, and you know, but it is the most important part of the job.
Canada has been dealing with wildfires since March. The fires have been so intense that smoke has affected the air quality of other provinces and some parts of the U.S. According to the Canadian Interagency Forest Fire Center, there are currently more than 1,000 active fires in Canada with 12.1 million acres burned.
Now we're just trying to access all the areas that are still hot and put it out, basically, and leave this whole fire in a place where we can walk away and the local resources can take it over.
At this fire in Quebec, 1.5 million acres have been scorched, and in this time of crisis, there is a need for resources and aid from other countries. At this location, about 400 miles north of Montreal, a combination of Canadian, U.S., and South Korean crews are battling the blazes.
Where are you based out of now?
I'm based out of Fairbanks, Alaska.
How long have the Wyoming hotshots been here?
Here on this fire, 13 days.
U.S. crews have been here for nearly 3 weeks and trying to contain the fire. We're told at this location there are more than 100 U.S. wildland firefighters from 20 different states, primarily Missouri, Idaho, and Wisconsin.
What is probably the most difficult thing, you know, doing this kind of work?
That's a great question, Thomas. So people spend a lot of time away from home, and used to be a day where we didn't have cell phones. You could call home easily and check in. So we really spend a lot of time thinking about the human factor, the connection that people have with their families, and making sure they have time to stay in touch with their loved ones.
For some people, it's the family that they're leaving behind. For some people, it's the long hours. For some people, it's the hard work. I think that's a super personal question, and it's different for everybody.
According to the U.S. Forest Service, since May 8th, around 2,000 U.S. personnel have been shipped to Canada.
Currently, there are 581 Americans assigned to multiple Canadian provinces, all working through language barriers and sharing tactics and resources.
What's really neat about it is working with different people with different languages. Here we have 3 spoken languages with interpreters.
Has that helped the U.S. learn any new tactics? Or
Yeah,
anything
it's
like
always great to work with different people from different countries because we learn new techniques that other people use. While we have our standard procedures, we're able to learn from others and how they might do their work.
Due to safety, we were only allowed access to burned areas and to see crews doing arguably one of the most important jobs when it comes to containing the fire, and that's checking for hot spots.
Our mission is to seek out the campfires, the little fires on the edge that have potential to escape if the weather conditions pick up. So the potential of the hot spots that we don't find on the edge left there to smolder under the right conditions can pick up and keep burning again.
But it's important for these crews to help out our neighboring country because this wildfire season isn't slowing down, and it's only a matter of time before we may need the same help.
You know, they're in need now, and so we're happy to help. We might be in need next year, you know, or maybe even later this year, and so it's always nice to stay close with our neighbors. I mean, we're all in this together.
That was Thomas Hoppa there reporting for us from Quebec, Canada. Still to come on Scripps News Live, the Fed increased interest rates again, making it more expensive to borrow. We're going to explain how the move will help fight inflation. Also, millions of Americans dream of owning their first home, and one city is making that dream a reality, even with those rising interest rates. We're going to show you how. Plus, don't forget, you can always count on Scripps News for all of your news throughout the primetime hours as well, beginning at 6 p.m. Eastern.
Hi, I'm Kirk Kaiser, and did you know the average funeral costs around $10,000? And if you don't have enough insurance to cover funeral costs, credit card debt, and other expenses, your family is going to get stuck with the bill. Don't let that happen. Call right now, and if you're over 50, you can get up to $30,000 in affordable life insurance, and your acceptance is guaranteed. That's right, if you're over 50, you can't be turned down for this insurance, regardless of your health. Plus, there's no medical exam and no health questions. Your rate will never go up. Your coverage will never go down. And rates start as low as $5 a week. Your coverage begins as soon as your application is received. Don't wait until it's too late.
Just call 800-760-7793.
Coverage is guaranteed regardless of your health and cannot be canceled without your approval. Don't leave your family with a huge bill for your funeral. With one fast and easy call, get up to $30,000 in affordable life insurance to help cover funeral expenses and credit card debt, and maybe even leave something for your kids and your grandkids. Remember, if you're over 50, you can't be turned down, regardless of your health. There's no medical exam and no health questions. Best of all, your rates start as low as $5 a week, and your rate will never increase. Nothing is more important than family. So don't leave them with a lot of bills to pay when you're gone. Don't leave your family with a lot of bills to pay for your funeral. Call right now. Acceptance is guaranteed. Call right now.
Call now. Call 800-760-7793. That's 800-760-7793.
If you're living with diabetes, this is the sound that could change your life.
Great news for people living with diabetes. Now you can wear a continuous glucose monitor and eliminate routine finger sticks. The days of repeated, painful finger sticks are over.
Call 800-719-8907.
If you use insulin daily to manage your condition, a continuous glucose monitor could help you control your diabetes and reduce or eliminate those painful finger sticks. If you have Medicare or private insurance, US Med can deliver a CGM system right to your door. And if you qualify, there may be little or no cost to you. Shipping is free, and we'll even bill your insurer directly. Call now to get your continuous glucose monitoring system so you can take control of your diabetes and get back to enjoying life.
Call 800-719-8907. That's 800-719-8907.
About 13 minutes after the hour now, taking a look at Wall Street. Wall Street on the rise again today. This is the 14th day, actually. 14th day winning streak for the Dow, which is now up 100 points, as you can see, or about 73 right at this moment. S&P and the NASDAQ also in the green right now. S&P is up 24. The NASDAQ is up 143. Investors here reacting to a report that has said that the U.S. economy was stronger than expected in the second quarter. They were also excited by a better than expected quarterly report from Meta, which is the parent company of Facebook. We're going to keep an eye on the boards for you. And we are just 1% away now from the Federal Reserve ending its fight against inflation. The Fed announced another quarter-point interest rate hike yesterday to bring inflation down to 2%. National correspondent Addie Guajardo explains what this latest rate hike is going to mean for you and your wallet.
Consumers may need to dig deeper into their pockets for some big buys.
When I started looking from a year ago, a lot of those prices have changed dramatically.
Gabriella Woody sealed the deal on her new SUV just hours before the latest interest rate hike announcement. She says even before the latest increase, she noticed car prices rising at least a couple $1,000s.
So within my budget, thank goodness, but I mean, I probably could have gotten a couple, like a sunroof or an automatic lift gate, but those weren't in my price range anymore.
A new vehicle averaged $48,000 last month, about 25% higher than pre-pandemic levels. Used cars will run you a stinging $30,000, 45% more compared to pre-pandemic prices.
Are you at all concerned about the increase in interest rates?
There's always a little bit of a concern, but you know, just like anything else, we've gotten through it.
Dora Herman with Courtesy Chevrolet in Arizona says they'll navigate this interest hike like all the others by working with customers. She says as interest rates go up, so do monthly payments.
It ranges anywhere from $500 to $700, average for the last few years.
Good afternoon.
On Wednesday, the Federal Reserve raised interest rates by a quarter point, bringing it to a range of 5.25 to 5.5%, impacting auto loans, mortgages, and credit cards.
It's good news for the economy overall, but it's bad news for our individual wallets.
Over the last year, inflation has steadily declined. It peaked at a 9% annual rate in June of 2022. It's now at 3%. But that's still too high for the Fed, which is still raising interest rates and making it more expensive to borrow money in a bid to slow down inflation below 2%.
We're in an environment where the Federal Reserve wants to tamp down inflation further, and it's willing to accept essentially some detrimental impacts.
Those detrimental impacts include a jump in the cost of auto loans, mortgage rates hovering at 7%, and credit card rates at near or all-time highs. But Wallet Hub analyst Jill Gonzalez says rate hikes affect much more than the interest we pay, adding that they're necessary evils.
That is, something that the Fed is well aware of. That's kind of baked in here. They want people to start going down.
The hikes are part of the Fed's strategy to pull off a so-called soft landing, bringing inflation down to a 2% target without falling into recession. Addie Guajardo, Scripps News, Phoenix, Arizona.
Rising interest rates over the past few years have been frustrating first home buyers. National correspondent Matt Pearl visited one city that created a program to help first-time home buyers, especially those of color.
You've lived all over the country, but San Diego is home.
Yes, I love the diversity of San Diego, the climate, God's country, but then of course you pay a price to live here.
That price is Sujatha Raman's practice. She helps first-time homebuyers in the city she drives us through today, at a time when buying that first home has become a massive challenge in God's country and all over the country.
Civil service servants, firefighters, police officers, school teachers have found it very unaffordable to be able to purchase a home, and there's no really any program anywhere for middle-income families.
A report last month from the National Association of Realtors and Realtor.com underscored in print what many have found in the process. Those at the median household income in America, basically the middle class, can afford fewer than a quarter of homes on the market.
Cities have to kind of rethink the playbook right now.
J.P. Walsh works for the Urban Institute. They produced a report specifically for San Diego. They found the simple number of homes on the market had dropped 80% in fewer than 4 years. They found Black and Hispanic residents specifically were getting priced out.
There simply aren't enough homes these days relative to the demand for people who want to buy homes.
No one wants to give up their current mortgage and sell and move into other homes, which is why first-time home buyers are not able to buy a home. That lower priced inventory just doesn't exist.
Raman drove us 2 miles from the Mexican border, then to a neighborhood further in. This is typically where they place low-income home buyers. Now,
it's getting to the point where middle-income home buyers are looking out here too.
Yes, we're finding families, cashing out their 401ks to come up with a down payment amount.
Enter straight-up cash. The San Diego Housing Commission has started a pilot program for first-time middle-class homebuyers of color. If you qualify demographically and financially, you receive $20,000 toward a down payment and $20,000 toward closing costs. It's funded mainly from a $7.5 million private grant. It's expected to help thousands.
We launched our BIPOC middle-income program just about a month ago, and I would say we're easily getting 200 to 300 inquiries per day.
Property is how so many build wealth. Raman says the factors that have exploded the market won't stay this way forever.
I think this is the worst we will see. Starting in 24, it'll ease a little bit.
In the meantime, cities and families must figure it out, how to open those pathways and pieces of God's country, wherever they can find it. In San Diego, I'm Matt Pearl.
Straight ahead on Scripps News Live, government officials have been accused of hiding details about UFOs for decades. But that might stop after a hearing on Capitol Hill. We'll explain next.
Time to get up, sweetie. Most people might not think much about all the little things they do every day. But for me, just being able to do those little things is the best part of my day. Ready, Mom? It hasn't been easy, but sometimes the hardest things in life have the best rewards. And it's all because of my amazing friends at the Shriners Hospitals for Children and people like you who support them every month. When you call the number on your screen and just give $19 a month, you'll be helping other kids like me do the amazing things that make up the best part of our day. Because Shriners Hospital is more than just a hospital. It's when my back is better, where my legs get stronger, where I get to be a kid, where it's the best part of my day.
With your gift of just $19 a month, only 63 cents a day, we'll send you this adorable Love to the Rescue blanket as a thank you.
Please, go online to loveshriners.org right now on your phone or computer to send your love to the rescue today. Will you send your love to the rescue today? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for giving. Because at Shriners Hospitals for Children, going to the hospital is like going to see family. It really is the best part of my day. Please, call or go online right now to give. If operators are busy, please wait patiently or go to loveshriners.org right away. Your gift will help kids just like me have the best part of our day.
How does Klein & Spector get among the most big verdicts and settlements of any law firm in the country? Because Klein & Spector is an award-winning team with 5 doctor lawyers, the most of any firm in the United States. And that's why the New York Times calls Klein & Spector a powerhouse law firm. So if a defective product, motor vehicle accident, or medical malpractice caused a catastrophic injury, call Klein & Spector.
Together.
Juntos.
Together.
We stand up to cancer.
On Saturday, August 19th, join Stand Up to Cancer for all the inspiration.
Together, we can stand up for our family and friends and everyone who is battling this disease.
Celebrating all the progress and innovation.
So just stand up with us.
One night to save lives. Join the millions in the fight against cancer.
Stand Up to Cancer, Saturday, August 19th at 8, 7 Central on Scripps News.
We'd like to hear from you. Give us a call on our Scripps News viewer hotline toll free. That number is on your screen right now. It's 1-833-4-SCRIPPS. Feel free to share your comments and your story ideas. So Ukraine launched its counteroffensive a month ago now, and it is picking up momentum. According to the New York Times, Pentagon sources confirm Russian reports of stepped-up attacks in southern Ukraine. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin says he remains optimistic that U.S. support has been helping.
They've been very deliberate. They've been serving manpower and equipment, and so they still have a number of options available to them. And we can expect that they'll continue to press.
As Ukraine is stepping up its ground attack, Russia is countering with an aerial barrage. More than 3 dozen cruise missiles hitting targets across Ukraine yesterday. The U.S. and its allies trying to find other ways in the meantime to export grain out of Ukraine. Ukraine and Russia are among the world's biggest grain exporters, and Russia recently pulled out of a deal to allow safe travel for grain ships leaving Ukraine. That food is crucial to the world food supply, especially for developing nations. U.S. officials say they are working to find ways to move the grain over land, at least for now.
We are working with our EU partners. We're working with Ukraine and other European partners to see if there's other ways to get grain to market over land. But that's not as efficient. It's not effective. You can't move as much or as fast.
Grain prices have gone up since Russia pulled out of the grain deal. The United Nations is overseeing a coordinated effort to keep grain moving. If the grain from Ukraine slows down too much, it could trigger a potential humanitarian food crisis. There are more questions than answers right now after yesterday's hearing on Capitol Hill about UFOs. 3 witnesses claim the federal government knows more than what it's letting people believe. National correspondent Stephanie Sandville has the highlights for us.
UAP are in our airspace, but they are grossly underreported. These sightings are not rare or isolated, they are routine.
Questions about whether unidentified anomalous phenomena pose potential threats to national security and whether extraterrestrial life exists are still up in the air after a UFO congressional hearing Wednesday.
UAPs, whatever they may be, may pose a serious threat to our military or civilian aircraft, and that must be understood.
Lawmakers are calling for greater transparency from the government.
We're going to uncover the cover-up, and I hope this is just the beginning of many more hearings and more people coming forward about this.
A House Oversight Subcommittee heard testimony from 3 witnesses, former fighter pilots David Fravor and Ryan Graves, who claim to have seen UAPs, and whistleblower David Grush, a former Air Force intelligence officer, who told House lawmakers he believes the Pentagon is withholding information about UAPs. Grush told lawmakers the U.S. has a secret program that retrieves and reverse engineers unidentified flying objects and has likely been aware of non-human activity since the 1930s. He says he's faced retaliation since becoming a whistleblower and that there is currently an open whistleblower reprisal investigation on his behalf.
I do have knowledge of active planned reprisal activity against myself and other colleagues, and it's very, very upsetting to me.
Coming from where?
Certain senior leadership at previous agencies I was associated with. But I am hopeful that my actions will ultimately lead to a positive outcome of increased transparency.
Grush claims the government is improperly using funds allocated for something else in order to fund the decades-long program. The Defense Department's All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office has investigated more than 800 UFO sightings over the past 27 years, with less than 5% being, quote, possibly really anomalous. The majority of UAPs reported were described as orbs, round spheres, and generally 3 to 12 feet in size. A NASA panel designed to study UAPs held its first public meeting in May and said there is absolutely no convincing evidence of extraterrestrial activity in any of the 800-plus reported sightings. The panel says stigma associated with reporting UFO sightings have prevented them from getting high-quality data.
I urge us to put aside stigma and address the security and safety issue this topic represents. If UAP are foreign drones, it is an urgent national security problem. If it is something else, it is an issue for science. In either case, unidentified objects are concerned for flight safety.
The Pentagon is reportedly denying Grush's claims of a cover-up and having a UAP crash retrieval and reverse engineering program. Back to you.
And I'm Veronica Dela Cruz. For the audience leaving us right now, your local programming is up next. Remember, you can always check us out on scripsnews.com. And if you're staying with us right now, we have much more news headed your way on Scripps News Live, including the Justice Department announcing an investigation into another police department. We'll have the details after a quick break.
As Americans, there's one thing we can all agree on: the promise of our Constitution and the hope that liberty and justice is for all people. But here's the truth. Attacks on our constitutional rights, yours and mine, are greater than they've ever been. The right for all to vote, reproductive rights, the rights of immigrant families, the right to equal justice for Black, brown, and LGBTQ+ folks. The time to act to protect our rights is now. That's why I'm hoping you'll join me today in supporting the American Civil Liberties Union. It's easy to make a difference. Just call or go online now and become an ACLU Guardian of Liberty. All it takes is just $19 a month, only 63 cents a day. Your monthly support will make you part of the movement to protect the rights of all people, including the fundamental right to vote.
States are passing laws that would suppress the right to vote. We are going backwards.
But the ACLU can't do this important work without the support of people like you. You can help ensure liberty and justice for all and make sure that every vote is counted. So please call the ACLU now or go to myaclu.org and join us. And when you use your credit card, you'll receive this special We the People t-shirt and much more to show you're a part of the movement to protect the rights guaranteed to all of us by the U.S. Constitution.
We protect everyone's rights. The freedom of religion, the freedom of expression, racial justice, LGBTQ rights, the rights of the disabled. We are here for everyone.
It is more important than ever to take a stand. So please join us today, because we the people means all the people, including you. So call now or go online to myaclu.org to become a Guardian of Liberty.
Hey there, welcome to Scripps News Live. Great to see you today. I'm Veronica Dela Cruz. Let's get you caught up in the day's top stories right now. An outbreak of wildfires in Greece destroyed buildings, hurt the vital tourism industry, and set a monthly record for harmful greenhouse gas emissions. Wildfires on the island of Rhodes have been burning now for 10 days. A state of emergency is in place. Strong winds have been helping to spread the flames. 21 people died and 40 others were rescued after a Filipino passenger boat overturned just 150 feet from shore. Authorities say that the passengers panicked because of fierce winds from a typhoon that hit the Philippines and moved to one side of the boat, causing it to capsize. There are concerns right now inside and outside the nation's capital about Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell's health. The 81-year-old insists that he is doing fine after he stopped talking and then stared vacantly for 20 seconds during his weekly news conference yesterday. McConnell was escorted away and then later returned and answered reporter questions. McConnell missed 6 weeks earlier this year after suffering a concussion and fracturing a rib in a fall. Developing now, the Department of Justice announcing it is opening an investigation into the Memphis Police Department and the city itself. The investigation is going to look to see if there is a pattern or practice of racial discrimination within the police force. It all comes after the DOJ reviewed public reports showing incidents where the police department violated civil rights. The Department of Justice recently announced its findings in the Minneapolis Police Department and found the department violated civil rights laws. Let's get you right out to Justice correspondent Jamal Andros, who's been following the investigation for us from the start. All right, Jamal, bring us up to speed right here. What can you tell us about this investigation into the Memphis Police Department?
Yeah, Veronica. Well, look, this is typically how these things go, right? You know, you have a high-profile incident, something like what happened with Tyree Nichols in January, and then that follows with an investigation by the Department of Justice. You know, the death of Freddie Gray preceded an investigation into the Baltimore Police Department. Same thing with Laquan McDonald in Chicago or George Floyd in Minneapolis. You know, it's sort of a where there's smoke, there's fire approach that the Department of Justice often takes with these kinds of cases. And what we often see is after a year or 2 years or 3 years, an often scathing report is released that sort of outlines some of the things that are alluded to in these press conferences that are available in public reports. And then from there has to be a negotiation between that city, that police department, and the Department of Justice to come up with a plan. And it often results in a consent decree. And that is what we often see come following these kinds of announcements. But again, this is a long process. This is a long way to get from where we are today to where, as you mentioned, the Minneapolis Police Department ended up just a few weeks ago. Here is Assistant Attorney General Kristen Clark announcing this investigation. Listen.
In January of this year, the nation witnessed the tragic death of Tyre Nichols at the hands of Memphis police. City and police department leaders recognized the need to scrutinize the police department's practices to prevent such incidents from ever happening again.
Now, in this particular investigation, Clark mentioned that she is going to focus on, and the Department of Justice is going to focus on, 3 particular areas. First, whether there is discrimination in their stops, searches, and arrests. She mentioned fielding reports shortly after what happened to Tyre Nichols, alluding to some of these discriminatory stops. Also, whether the Memphis Police Department is engaging in a pattern or practice of excessive force. And third, whether they engage in racially discriminatory policing in the city that is majority Black, which is an interesting piece that was mentioned during that press conference. They believe even in this majority Black city that Black residents are facing some discrimination, Veronica.
What are the differences here, though, Jamal? Because in March, the DOJ announced that it was reviewing the Memphis Police Department policies. So what is the difference between these 2 investigations?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You know, Vanita Gupta from the Department of Justice announced a similar investigation back in March. And that one is essentially a review of the Memphis Police Department policies, looking at things like their de-escalation policies or whether they have excessive force policies that need to be updated or changed, looking at hiring practices. This is something that local officials requested following all of the turmoil surrounding what happened to Tyre Nichols. But Kristen Clark in this press conference was very clear that those are separate investigations that will run simultaneously. And this one is very much focused on whether there have been acts of criminality from this police department and whether that is something that has been going on for quite some time, as opposed to that one, which is, again, a review of the policies and a potential implementation of things like a new de-escalation policy or new hiring practices that can help improve the department, whereas this one is focused on past wrongdoings. And the last thing I want to mention, Veronica, is that there is also simultaneously an investigation going on into those specific officers that were fired and arrested and now face state charges of second-degree murder. They are still under federal civil rights investigation of a criminal matter. And so again, we'll have to see exactly where this all plays out. But the Department of Justice is present in Memphis and looks to be carrying out a lot of investigations and police work into this particular police department.
We appreciate you tracking it for us in the meantime. Jamal Andres reporting live from Dallas. Jamal, thank you so much. An Arizona teenager who was 14 when she disappeared nearly 4 years ago has been found alive and is back home again. Police say Alicia Navarro showed up at a police station in Montana alone. Now the investigation into how she got there and what has happened since 2019 begins. Ashley Holden with Scripps News Phoenix has the emotional reaction from her mother.
My daughter, Alicia Navarro, was missing since September 15, 2019. She has been found safe.
Appearing emotional in a video posted to social media, Jessica Nunez calls it a miracle that her daughter Alicia Navarro has been found.
I don't have details, but the important thing is that she is alive.
Glendale police saying Wednesday the teen, now 18 years old, was found about 40 miles away from the Canadian border in a small Montana town.
We can tell you that she went to a local police department in that area. She identified herself as Alicia Navarro.
Jessica tirelessly searched for her daughter since she disappeared in 2019, hanging flyers telling ABC 15 Alicia has autism and relied on medication and her family.
She doesn't know how to be here by herself.
Does that make sense? She doesn't know how to take a bus.
Police say they do believe this started as a runaway situation, but it's still a mystery where the Glendale teen has been since 2019 and how she ended up thousands of miles away.
And as much as we'd like to say this is the end, we know this is probably only the beginning.
Glendale police sending us clips from interviews officers were able to do virtually with Alicia before seeing the teen face to face.
Did anybody hurt you in any way?
No, no one hurt me.
Okay, because, our goal is we just want to make sure that you're safe.
The teen's mom saying she found out just hours before Wednesday's announcement. Police telling us the two were able to be reunited virtually.
But I can say for everybody involved, including the detectives, it's extremely overwhelming.
Police say Alicia knew her disappearance gained a lot of attention. After all these years, I asked police if Alicia gave any indication of why she decided to identify herself now.
She's expressed a desire to move forward in life and do the things that a normal, healthy adult would do.
Glendale police tell us they now have detectives in Montana as they continue their investigation. I'm Ashley Holden reporting.
Coming up next, some companies admit that they are raising the prices on food and items that we use every day. So we're almost forced to pay up. We're going to examine how this complicates the Federal Reserve's efforts to curb inflation. Next.
Are you on Medicaid and Medicare?
The U.S. government recently announced that 12.2 million citizens are eligible for additional benefits beyond what they received from the original Medicare or Medicaid.
These benefits may include $2,500 of dental credit, $900 of pharmacy credit, plus you could be adding up to $164 back into your Social Security check every month. Certain beneficiaries qualify for specific benefits based on income verification.
It's easy to see if you qualify.
Call Go Medicare at 800-718-0414.
And see if you're one of over 12 million who may qualify.
For $2,500 of dental credit, $900 of pharmacy credit. Plus, you could be adding up to $164 back into your Social Security check every month. Certain beneficiaries qualify for specific benefits based on income verification.
This call is 100% free with no obligation to enroll.
At 800-718-0414. Are you on Medicaid and Medicare?
The U.S. government recently announced that 12.2 million citizens are eligible for additional benefits beyond what they received from the original Medicare or Medicaid.
These benefits may include $2,500 of dental credit, $900 of pharmacy credit. Plus, you could be adding up to $164 back into your Social Security check every month. Certain beneficiaries qualify for specific benefits based on income verification. Call Go Medicare at 800-718-0414. If you have recently turned 65, you may be able to enroll in a new plan today that may include benefits like $2,500 of dental credit, $900 of pharmacy credit.
This call is 100% free with no obligation to enroll. So call today.
At 800-718-0414. That's 800-718-0414.
All eyes on me, 'cause I make it look easy. God with the top down, yeah, I make it look breezy. Like ABC, it's just too easy. I make it look easy.
Hi, I'm Chu, Head of Quality and Engineering at our place. We created the Cast Iron Always Pan because the perfect cast iron did not exist. The Cast Iron Always Pan is a single cast construction with a heavy-duty base. This means it holds heat really well and cooks evenly. And there's a matte black interior for perfect browning. It even comes with silicone grips for safe handling. It's guaranteed to sell out, so you should probably get yours like now.
Do you have an idea for a story you would like to see or a comment on our coverage you want to share? We want to hear from you. Call our Scripps News viewer hotline at 833-4-SCRIPPS. That's 833-4-SCRIPPS.
It is certainly possible that we would raise funds again at the September meeting if the data warranted. And I would also say it's possible that we would choose to hold steady at that meeting.
Fed Chair Jerome Powell there hinting at another interest rate increase later this year, right after announcing its 11th increase since March of 2022. Though interest rate hikes could deter some people from spending on items, everyone still needs to buy food and basic necessities, and it's getting expensive. According to the Consumer Price Index, food prices increased 5.7% in the past year. Companies like Coca-Cola, Pepsi, and Unilever have not only reported higher prices, but they're reporting higher profits as well. Let's go ahead and break down the numbers right here. Coca-Cola reported its profits rose 33% last quarter from the same time last year. And then Unilever, who owns companies like Ben & Jerry's and Dove, reported a 20% profit growth in the first half of this year compared to last year. And then Pepsi reported its second quarter profits doubled from just a year earlier. Ted Rossman, a senior industry analyst at Bankrate, joins us now live. Ted, good to see you. So lots of questions here. We can obviously cut back on lots of things, but it's very difficult to cut back on items like food or soap, if you will. So when you hear these numbers, when you hear about these profits, what does it all mean? And how does it impact the Fed's efforts to curb inflation?
I actually think we're starting to turn a corner. In the latest CPI numbers, grocery inflation, or what they call food at home, was up 4.7% year over year. That's actually the lowest since September of 2021. So I think we're past the peak there. I mean, still cold comfort for people whose grocery bills are going up, but we do expect further declines in the months to come. Interestingly, food away from home, basically restaurant sales, inflation there is still at 7.7%. According to the CPI. And I think that really tracks back to pent-up demand and people prioritizing experiences.
So during the pandemic, it was obvious that a lot of companies were passing on prices, to consumers. For example, I would buy a latte, and back in the day it was $1.95. Today it's $4.95. Just because the Fed is dealing with interest rates in the way that they are, doesn't necessarily mean that that coffee shop is going to say, okay, well, we're going to go ahead and drop rates again back to $1.95. So companies are admitting to raising prices, yet we keep paying them, and then the Fed keeps raising interest rates. Are we just trapped in an endless cycle?
This is an important point because even though inflation's coming down, you're right, that doesn't mean we're going to roll the clock back to 2019 prices. Lower inflation just means that prices will still be growing, they'll just be growing at a slower rate. I think that's a really important point here, that there's a cumulative effect to all this. The fact that we've had this inflation the past couple of years, the fact that interest rates are up. I mean, look at something like credit cards. The average credit card rate right now is about 20.5%. Most people are facing credit card rates that are 5.25 percentage points higher than they were at the beginning of last year. There's a cumulative effect to that toll.
And we are still seeing layoffs. People are still talking about a potential recession. What are your thoughts right now? Because, I mean, is this really sustainable, this cycle that we're in right now, despite this strong labor market, stable consumer spending? I mean, can the average American continue to afford these types of prices, especially if they do continue to rise?
We continue to be surprised at the resilience of consumer spending. We got a really positive GDP number today, 2.4% in the second quarter versus a 2% expectation. I think everybody continues to be amazed that this recession timetable keeps getting pushed back, and maybe it won't happen at all. I think the odds of a so-called soft landing, Fed bringing inflation down without causing a recession, I think those odds are rising. And I think we can look at things like the strong job market, the fact that a lot of people saved more during the pandemic. So there is still some of that dry powder. Now, of course, that's at this point more at upper income levels. But even if we look at middle income and lower income households, the debt to income ratio is actually looking pretty favorably, historically speaking. So I think the resilience of the consumer is a really important topic here. Hopefully it continues. I think that the tight labor market is definitely keeping things afloat.
But even if the Fed is claiming to bring inflation down, people are still seeing those high prices. People say this to me all the time. I can't afford my rent. I can't afford to buy groceries. Why are prices so high?
even though, I mean, no doubt people are strained by inflation, but remarkably, people are still buying anyway. I mean, we're seeing a real surge right now in spending on experiences. And I think that's because of pandemic effects, all that pent up demand for travel and dining and concerts and sporting events. But even in the physical goods sector, those sales have tailed off a bit, but they're still holding their own. I mean, they certainly haven't fallen off a cliff. I thought it was interesting that National Retail Federation said this week that they saw a lot more people trading down during and after the Great Recession. So looking at things like dollar store sales, for example, for groceries and back to school, we're not seeing as much of that right now. So I think we do have some conflicting signals. We definitely have some economic challenges, but I think in the face of that, people seem to be feeling worse than the actual data. I think that consumer sentiment, and even that has ticked upward in recent months, but that seems more depressed than the actual economic data, which is actually pretty robust right now, despite these challenges.
Right. And we've been talking about the economy being resilient. Some do say that it's going to be tough to hit the Fed's 2% inflation goal. I want to get your thoughts on that, but I also want you to answer what you think is happening here. Is this corporate greed? Are corporations just trying to widen their profit margins? Or is it really inflation, especially if the Fed is saying, look, we're at 3%, we want to hit that 2% goal? Is what we're seeing right now inflation, or is this corporate greed?
I think whether it's corporate greed or just capitalism probably depends a bit on your politics. I mean, I do think that this is part of our system. I mean, let's face it, companies are always out there to maximize profits. And a lot of this comes back to what the market will bear. And the market is bearing a lot of spending right now. It doesn't always feel good, but people are paying these prices. And I think that there are certainly some underlying factors. I mean, still some lingering supply chain disruptions. The cost of labor has gone way up. But even there, we don't see companies cutting back in large percentages. So I actually really think this is more of a capitalism, what the market will bear kind of story. And it's been remarkably strong, I would say.
All right, Ted Rossman from Bankrate, thank you so much for stopping by. Always appreciate your time.
No problem, thanks.
Coming up next on Scripps News Live, a Maryland woman's bold move to quit her teaching job is paying off. We'll show you how next.
If you, like many people, are covered by both Medicare and your state's Medicaid, here's something important to know. Now you could get even more health benefits than you already have. It's the United Healthcare Dual Complete Plan. To find out if you or someone you care about is eligible, it's easy. Call now to talk with us. We can explain it all and answer your questions. Medicaid gives you benefits, and Medicare gives you some too. But a dual complete plan can add even more benefits and features compared to original Medicare. You'll have lots of doctors and hospitals to choose from. $0 copays on all covered prescriptions, including brand names. And depending on where you live, you could enjoy other benefits too, like more dental care and rides to and from your doctor or pharmacy. Most plans even give you up to $300 a month to help pay for covered over-the-counter products, groceries, and new this year, utility bills. And best of all, with this plan, there's no extra cost to you. Remember, if you have Medicare and Medicaid, chances are you could get a dual complete plan. So call now to talk with us. Our agents are available to help. We know healthcare can be confusing. United Healthcare can straighten things out. And with over 40 years of experience, you can count on us to be there for you. With a dual complete plan, you could have a wide choice of doctors to choose from. $0 copays on all covered prescriptions. Help paying for covered over-the-counter products, groceries, and utility bills. More dental coverage too, all at no extra cost. If you have both Medicare and Medicaid, you may be eligible for dual complete. So call the number on your screen now to see if you're eligible or to enroll. There's more for you with the United Healthcare Dual Complete Plan.
have patients who think they've tried everything for their sweat. That's when I recommend Carpe. Carpe specializes in effective sweat solutions at an affordable price with products for the face, hands, underarms, and more.
It's honestly just completely changed my life.
Nothing worked for me until I found Carpe.
This makes my life so much less slippery.
I've personally seen the difference that Carpe can make.
Avoid expensive treatments, injections, and prescriptions. Your total body sweat solution is available at mycarpe.com. Visit today and get free shipping.
When Lila was ready to sell her ring, she sent it to Worthy, where they took care of everything and auctioned it on her terms. Then, Worthy sent Lila her money. You're worthy of more. Get started at worthy.com.
Digging deeper into the headlines.
We have some big stories to get to tonight.
Shedding light on groundbreaking investigations and ending your night with something new.
Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Christian Bryant.
Scripps News Tonight, live tonight, starting at 8, 7 Central.
Welcome back to Scripps News Live. So it's been 4 years since a Maryland teacher stepped into entrepreneurship. Her networking cafe started as a small idea to create a safe space for women of color in business. But now it's a hub for an entire community. Randall Newsom has her story.
A renowned sociologist has stood by a theory going back to the 80s, an idea that as people, we need 3 spaces in life.
Home, work, and then a third place where you spend time with like-minded people. There are low barriers to entry. So like a barbershop, knitting circle.
As an educator, Laura Bacon became a student of this theory years ago, and she believes most of us spend plenty of time at the first 2 places, home and work. But what about the third? 4 years ago, her curiosity became a passion project.
I was teaching at the time and working here in Howard County with an underserved population in the school system, and really felt like I wanted to use my heart for service outside of the school system.
Her knack for bringing people together out of the school system and into the world of entrepreneurship led her to create that third space for women of color in her community.
What's beautiful about me being an entrepreneur as well is that we're all on this journey together. So we all relate to each other in how wild and beautiful and brilliant and scary and terrifying this journey is.
She knew there was a demand. All she had to do was get it started. Easier said than done, though.
It's hard to do something new when there's no rule book, there's no playbook.
But as you can see, she figured out how to make the right play.
So we planned for about 25 women the first month, and the first month we had 50.
The focus is for, women of color entrepreneurs and business owners, and it's just great to have a space where you feel welcome and you know that you have support.
And now, the third is home to 200 members.
What does it feel like to have seen it from its inception and see what it is today?
I cried. There's a picture actually of Laura getting the keys from the engineer that works for the landlord.
I'm most proud of the look on people's faces when they come into the space or when they talk about their membership, and how they don't feel alone anymore in the work that they're doing or this brand new scary thing that they're trying.
So officially, it's a co-working space. Unofficially,
the word that everybody uses is it's a vibe.
It's a vibe.
I feel like the space itself really speaks for itself. It's a vibe. Everybody loves it.
I'm starting to think it's not so unofficial.
3 out of 3 people said it's a vibe.
Because it is. Because it is, yeah.
What would you say is so special about the vibe that you get when walking?
I think the community. We all try really hard to make it an inviting space for us to just be. It's a safe space.
It's a vibe, y'all. It really is. I mean, you walk in and it's like your shoulders drop. You realize you have a home away from home. You have a place to be. You have a place to be seen.
How often would you say you kind of hang out at the third?
Definitely come here on a weekly basis. And I come here too for the hummingbird cake as well as...
Wait, I need to wait more about this.
True story. The hummingbird cake, Chef Jamila does her thing.
Hummingbird what? We'll come back to that. But Chef Jamila Wright has been a key ingredient to the third's recipe since the beginning. When Laura asked her to come on board, she didn't hesitate. She knew what the third could be.
Hope and growth. There's not a lot of spaces for us to come and exist and be. And this place is that.
We are not only providing these resources, this hub for women of color entrepreneurs, but we're also using our position and our influence to make sure that we're letting other stakeholders in the county know now's the time. We need to be making sure that everyone in this community is served.
And to do that, this nonprofit needs support.
What's beautiful and unique about the third is while we are women of color centered and while we use our membership exclusively for women of color entrepreneurs, the space is intentionally open to the entire community because we cannot make this beautiful forward movement around economic growth for women of color entrepreneurs without the involvement of the entire community. And Chef Jamila kills with all the food, so you're gonna wanna pick up a snack while you're here.
I mean, you heard the lady. Besides, it would be rude to come all the way to Columbia, hear about the food, and not get a little sample, right?
I'm gonna just take this off your hands. just so I can do more investigating.
I got you.
Make sure it's safe for other people to try.
I got you.
That does look good. Thank goodness it's lunchtime. That was Randall Newsom reporting there for us. I'm Veronica Dela Cruz. Thank you so much for joining us today. For the audience leaving us right now, your local programming is up next. Remember, you can always check us out on scripsnews.com as well. I'll see you back here at 3 p.m. Eastern.